Welcome to New York! Need a gun?
Good morning, afternoon, or evening. My name is Buns, and before we begin, I want to explain what the Learning Deadlock A to Z series will be about, and the format you'll come to expect in each video. This series will be a mix of informational guides, my normal edited videos, and those 100 days in Minecraft videos. I want to learn how to play every character in Deadlock, and to do this, I'm going to play every character 10 times while analyzing my gameplay at the end of every match. The basic format of these videos will be me explaining a hero's kit so you have a basic idea of what's going on, playing 10 matches with that character while explaining my thought process and what I've learned from each game, and finally, showing what I've learned from the entire experience with a final review. Hopefully this will give you some tips and strategies for playing the heroes that I will cover in this series. With all that being said, I hope you enjoy, and let's get into the character overview for Abrams. Abrams' revolver is a shotgun with heavy bullet fall-off that reloads a single bullet at a time. Every character in the game currently reloads their entire clip at once, which makes this unique. This gives Abrams the downside of the longest reload times in the game. It also allows Abrams to deny souls while reloading, assuming you have a bullet in the clip. Abrams' unique gun makes melee charge, an item that reloads his entire clip on hitting a fully charged melee, a required item for him. Abrams' first ability is Siphon Life. Abrams damages all enemies, including troopers and towers, in an area around him. He heals for the amount of damage he does with this ability, so building for spirit damage also increases his healing. Abrams' second ability is Shoulder Charge. Abrams runs and drags enemy heroes along with him. If he hits an enemy hero, the charge speed increases. On hitting a wall, Abrams stuns that hero, giving you an opening for a melee attack. Abrams' third ability may be his simplest, but arguably it's his most important. Infernal Resistance makes it so that whenever Abrams takes damage, he restores a portion of that damage over time. Finally, Abrams' ultimate is Seismic Impact. Abrams jumps up and then slams back down, stunning all enemies that he hits. This is a great engage tool for Abrams, who has very low movement speed. You can combine this with a Shoulder Charge for a nasty combo that can stun for a long time while you're consistently dealing damage to them. With all of Abrams' abilities put together, his role on the battlefield is clear. He wants to get in people's faces and stick to them like glue, while also being hard to kill. He is probably the closest you can get to the melee tank archetype in Deadlock. Now that we have reviewed his kit, let's get into the games! I played 10 matches as Abrams to learn how to put this hero's moveset to use. Let's dive into my first match as Abrams to see where I did well, where I failed, and where I can improve. Before I began, I went to the hero range to grab a pre-made build from Abrams. I grabbed this solid, basic melee build, as it seemed like the best option for him. One thing you're going to notice from these first few games is that the quality is absolutely terrible. After the third game, I finally switched to a better setup, and was able to record in the high quality that you see in most of this video. I did pretty terribly in my first game. I got stumped in lane because my opponent had a little better range than me. He knew about parrying, and he was just overall more comfortable with his character than I was. I still have a lot to learn about laning.
Come on!
Oh my fucking god. In the mid-game, we were actually winning due to the solo queue strat of run at enemies and press abilities over and over. Unfortunately, we lost a fight, and that started the downward spiral of my teammates running into the enemies one at a time and dying over and over to feed them. I didn't do much better. I didn't know my character and was also feeding over and over. In the mid-game, I also didn't buy Torment Pulse, despite the build explicitly saying that's a key item. I also misused my abilities a lot. I ulted several times into absolutely nothing, and wasted several shoulder bashes by hitting non-priority targets. Overall, this was a pretty terrible game. My team played poorly, I played especially poorly. It was a learning experience. and it helped me understand how to use Abrams' kit just a little better.
No!
We tried. I would yell too, but it's late. At least everybody was a good sport about it. The second game went a little better. The Pocket swapped lanes with me so I didn't have to lane against Bebop, which is fantastic.
Hey Abrams, do you want to trade me? Can I go up against Bebop?
Absolutely, I hate fighting Bebop. I'm a Bebop
I can
main.
use my satchel to just keep him from getting stacked.
Yeah, I'm a Bebop main. That lane is fucking terrifying. I really didn't want to play a close range hero against a hero who can punish anyone in close range and kill them instantly. I was really thankful for this Pocket. Remember, it's always alright to swap lanes. At this point, I wasn't really comfortable playing early game with Abrams, so I got stomped once again. My main is Bebop, so I'm used to his incredibly strong primary fire just carrying me through the early game. Having to actually think about the laning stage is a challenge for me.
Still 3 purple.
Awesome, my ult did not function. Wow, this character... Did you see my ult indicator just not function at all and send me where I didn't want to go? As you could see from that clip, one issue I had in my early games as Abrams was figuring out his ult. The indicator is a little unreliable, so you really have to do it by feel to land exactly where you want to go. If you don't develop that muscle memory, you're not going to go far as Abrams, and since I hadn't yet, I had many situations where I was just ulting places I didn't want to go and completely wasting the ability. For my second game, to be quite frank, I was just feeding over and over in the first 20 minutes. Due to this, I was really falling behind in farm, so I went on little adventures to break pain for gain machines placed around the map. This allowed me to have actually respectable farm going into late game teamfights. Despite my poor start, we won this game. A late game Abrams is really fucking tanky. I felt really good about being unkillable while pumping out high amounts of damage. My conclusion from this one is even if you lose hard early, with enough farming you can get fed enough to be a valuable member of the team. In Game 3, once again I got stomped in the early game. I don't think Abrams has bad early pressure, I think I'm just bad at him. Me losing early 3 games in a row is teaching me that I just need to play early game much more conservatively than I have been. One thing that I've been learning as I play more Abrams is because of the amount of movement in this game, you really need to be good at aiming your melees if you want to succeed. I don't have much to say about Game 3 because it was basically a repeat of Game 2. I lost pretty hard in the early game, farmed up a whole bunch, and then won in the late game. Unfortunately for Game 4, I completely forgot to record the match. I'll have to recant this very fun haze stomp through the art of slideshow instead. In the early game, I was laning against Haze. I did pretty well, but that was probably because Haze is an incredibly weak laner. My rotations were pretty poor this game, and I mostly stayed in my lane just farming side camps. I need to improve on rotating as Abrams, but his low speed makes it really tough to time a good rotation. In the mid game, while our team was taking team fights, the enemy Haze was split pushing. She pushed in every single tower and got fed as fuck. Whenever I attempted to stop her because of my low speed, she just went invisible and walked away from me. There wasn't much I could do. I tried building Return Fire and Metal Skin to stop her damage, but because the rest of my team wasn't taking those items, every fight would end with her wiping everyone except me, and then I would die because I had no teammates. My conclusion for this match was that in solo queue, it's my responsibility to stop Haze players because nobody else will do it. Coincidentally, Abrams is terrible at stopping Haze because he has low speed. Fuck Haze. Game 5 was pretty interesting. I laned against a Calvin, and while on paper that's a hard matchup since he can lock me down so easily, I was able to fend for myself and win lane enough to start ganking and denying their camps. I feel like I'm improving at rotating. This game taught me two very useful lessons. The first one is that Headshot Booster is an incredibly good item on Abrams. The flat damage boost on Headshot that Headshot Booster gives does not care about range. This means that you can pepper troopers from a distance and still deal pretty good damage to them. My second lesson was just a lesson in control. Abrams is kind of a difficult character to control at first due to his charge slowing down your mouse turning, and his ult reticle being incredibly inconsistent. Once you learn the ranges by heart, he becomes a lot easier to play. That's so dirty. They literally triple ulted me. They triple ulted me and I lived it. What the fuck? As you could see in that clip, they triple ulted me and I lived it. What the fuck? This clip has nothing to do with me learning Abrams. I just thought it was very funny that they couldn't kill me here. In the late game, I just walked at enemies brainlessly and won. Abrams, even with a slight lead, is basically unkillable. This man does not know what a parry is. Alright. Wraith is a frustrating character to lane against, and that's exactly who I laned against in my 6th game. I thought I did pretty decent in laning, but because my side had a late spawning camp, she was able to kill me once and then go kill camps all over the map. She snowballed incredibly hard, and there wasn't much I could do about it due to my low speed. Even though I got trashed in lane, we had hyper-fed Haze on our team. The game became hunt down the hyper-fed guy and kill them for both teams. This game taught me a valuable lesson about looking at people's items. When the Wraith died and respawned after 4 seconds, I was really surprised, but then I remembered there's an item that does that. We won, but it was a very hard-fought win. Because I did so well in Game 7, I didn't learn a whole lot. I felt like I did pretty much everything right in this game. In lane, I rotated frequently and focused on denying enemy camps to get us ahead on farm. In the mid-game, I had the highest farm, though I lost that to 7 later on. In the late game, I did Abrams things. I was tanky and unkillable, and I did a whole lot of damage. It helped tremendously that the opponents really didn't know how to parry. As I play Abrams more and more, I begin to understand his role in the battlefield better. By being this big, tanky, unkillable guy who is really threatening in close range, you're drawing enemy fire off of your allies and onto you. This opens up a lot of opportunities for your team that they may not have had without you creating space. I don't usually play tank characters in video games, so while that information might be pretty obvious to most people, it's new info to me. Nice. Game 8 was a loss, but it was a very fun loss. In lane, I lost in the first 5 minutes 2 times, causing me to lose lane really early. However, due to good farming, I ended the game with the second most farm in our team overall. Our team was comprised of some very interesting people.
I'm in the Big Apple. I'm straight jorking it. And by jorking it, I mean my shit.
Holy shit, this guy's real. I think we're gonna win, guys. I'm pretty sure I lost us the game by going for a Hail Mary mid-play and failing it completely. At the end of the game, I learned why Duration Extender is a must-buy item on Abrams. I got killed in a situation where I would have lived because the Geist parried my attack. If I had Duration Extender here, instead of me dying, the Geist would be the one who was dead. In Game 9, I stomped. I've taken pretty much everything I've learned in my games and I've put it all together for these last 2 matches. In the early game, I did get pretty creamed by the Vindicta I was laning against, but I used the tactic of focusing on buying small items when you're behind to get ahead and farm. Once I was ahead in farm, I kept my lead for the entire game. In the mid game, I had enough money to buy an early Phantom Strike. It gave me way more mobility than I should have had at that point in the game, and it made my ganks incredibly impressive. In the late game, I got Soul Rebirth. I was unkillable, and if they managed to kill me, I was unkillable for a second time. This was a really great game for me, but I did have a few situations where I could have executed better. At this point, I was really excited for my last game to start styling on people with all that I had learned. Oh, we got him. Woo! For my final 10th game, I joined in with Dolphino, one of the best Deadlock players that I know. He's the viscous I'm laning with. Speaking of, we did exceptionally well in lane. When you're playing on your A game, it's pretty easy to beat a haze in the early game. Our communication and team play was absolutely on point. I'm sorry I couldn't get in there. Abrams is too fat.
It's never a bad thing, right, bud? What?
Damn.
Sorry.
While I did find myself in bad positions a few times, overall I played Abrams quite well this game. Dolphino is an absolute farm goblin, and I've never seen a game end where he did not have top farm on the team. Or at least, that is until today. In this game, I got top farm on our team. I think that's the ultimate proof that I have improved greatly with Abrams. We won this game, and I ended it very happy with myself. The two main things I learned from playing Abrams was controlling him and positioning him. For me, Abrams is a type of character I don't normally play in video games. Learning to play a slow, close-range hero was a new and fun thing for me. Abrams' abilities can have unreliable indicators, and abilities like a shoulder bash don't even have an indicator in the first place. Learning Abrams' ability range by heart improved my gameplay significantly. As an extension of that, the other main thing I learned was positioning. I usually prefer support characters in video games, so being in the front lines was often pretty scary. Making space, CC chaining valuable targets, and giving my team opportunities to get in safely were all skills I learned during this experiment. For my strengths on Abrams, I feel that my greatest strength on the character was my aim. I played Paladins competitively for a few years, and during that time I mostly played Talus, an aim-reliant hero. A lot of that aiming skill carries over to a very different type of primary weapon. Abrams, despite having a shotgun, requires a lot more aiming skill than I thought looking at him at first glance. The more I played him, the more comfortable I was aiming with his shotgun and charge punches. And the more comfortable I was at aiming with those, the better I was doing at the character. As for my weaknesses with the character, however, I still think I need to improve at my positioning. I'm still developing my skill with proper positioning. Many times during my play, even in my last few games, I would just get caught out in dumb positions and die. Now, I know that instantly dying because you position slightly too far up in Deadlock is a core mechanic, but even despite that, I died way more times than I should have due to overconfident gameplay. My final opinion on Abrams is overall, I like him a lot more than I thought I would. I usually stay far away from slow characters like Abrams, and without this video, I never would have even tried him. He's a powerful and fun to play character, and he's got a really likable personality that I didn't get to show off too much in this video. I greatly enjoyed my time playing Abrams, and I hope you enjoyed going on this journey with me. Thank you very much for watching this video. Now go down below this video and hit the subscribe button as fast as you can, or else Barden is gonna find you.